Gather your foil and pull out those brushes, 'cause today we're doing some foil effects dice. Ooh, yeah. Welcome back to the Garage Quest shop. Today I want to talk about two different effects you can get using foil inside of your dice. Now, I've already taken some multicolored foil and put a little bit into a lid here for easy access. And I've got my two sets of sprue molds, which I'm going to be using something called the brush technique for. I've already done the D2s. And then I've got this big chunky boy D20, and I'm going to do something called the loose leaf effect in there. Okay, so let's get started. The first effect I want to talk about is the brush effect. So for this effect, you're going to need tweezers and just a dry paintbrush, and of course, your mold. So I've just pulled out one of my molds and I found a piece of foil that I really like, and I'm placing it inside the mold against the face that I want it to be up against. And then I'm using a dry paintbrush just to press it down into the mold. Now, if you just lightly press this against the wall of your mold, you're going to get sort of a mineral effect, and you will see very minimal breakage of the foil. However, if you want the foil to scatter about a little bit more, you can use that brush to actually pull a little bit, just a sweeping brushing motion, and it will break apart the foil, creating a slightly more visible breakage effect. So I'm just going to go ahead and start picking up pieces. I usually do about 2 or 3 pieces of foil, depending on the size, per dice mold. And of course, depending on the size of the dice itself. A D4 typically has less foil in it for me than a D20, for instance. But again, I'm just placing it against the face that I want it to be up against, and then using that dry brush to really brush that down against the side. And the reason we're doing this is it creates a particular effect. And also, if you don't have a pressure pot, this is the effect you want to go for. And the reason for that is simply that it really helps to prevent bubbles. Now, if you have foil flat like this, it comes in long sheets. That's okay. A lot of the bright colors come in sheets like this. You just start ripping away until you get little pieces. And then you use the same technique as you would the jarred pre-ripped foil. The jarred foil tends to be a little more crumpled already, so it does have a bit of a different texture. But I've never seen a jar of crumpled foil in bright colors, so just keep that in mind. So I'm just going to go ahead and work my way through these two sets with this effect, and I'm going to do that as quickly as possible. I decided to go ahead and do 2 sets here because I might as well make actual dice for my shop while doing this. So you'll go ahead and see my process once I move on to the pouring resin stage. Okay, so we've got that first set done. And now I'm just going to work in this second set, brushing it up against the edges. Now make sure you don't block the hole to the sprue when you're doing this. That will trap bubbles inside of your dice. So you really just want to have a good eye on what you're doing. Now here's a close look at one of my D2s. This is just the minimal brushed effect where I've just used the brush to press the foil down, and you can see what effect that creates. And then in this D2, I really used that brushing technique to its fullest. Okay, so now I'm going to whip up some resin because resin will be necessary for the next technique before we move further. And that technique is the loose leaf technique. So I've got this resin And before I separate it to make colors, I'm going to take a little bit of clear resin and drizzle it into my chunky boy. And I'm just going to roll that resin around. The idea here is, because of the loose leaf effect is more inclined to create bubbles, coating every face first with just a thin layer of clear resin can really help eliminate any surface bubbles. So this D20 is pretty big, so I had to add some more, but it looks like a pretty decent coat on all the sides. Yeah, I think that's going to do well. So now I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to separate resin into 3 cups because I'm going to be working with 3 colors. I've poured enough there for my big chunky boy D20 and 2 sets. And now I'm just mixing up my colors. I've got a light greenish blue teal color going on here. I want to really get this with a nice condensed color. There we go. And I've got this very dark purple in the second cup. I'm just going to mix that up until it's nice and evenly distributed. And then I've got some solar dust, which I like to add just the tiniest bit to each of my colors. It really adds just this nice sheen, you know, almost a glitter effect without actual large chunks of glitter. And now I'm just whipping up some white mica powder and a little bit of solar dust so I can get a more opaque color that I can swirl about inside of the dice. Okay, so now before we do anything else, I'm going to get out my foil. And I'm going to grab a pair of tweezers that I don't mind getting coated in resin a little bit. It's my messy tweezers. And I just start picking up foil pieces that I love and placing them inside of the D20. The reason you need a messy pair of tweezers is because, remember, we've already put some resin in there, so it's sticky in there. And as you pull these tweezers out, they're going to be sticky. This D20 is pretty massive. It's the biggest chunky boy D20 I've ever used, so it's requiring quite a bit of foil, but I think that's good. You can see it floating around in there. That is the loose leaf method. So now I'm done with that, and I'm just going to start filling up all of my molds with resin. Here we go. And it's been 24 hours. Let's see those dice. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video on the foil effect, and don't forget to subscribe. And thanks for watching.